Sometimes life hits you with so much at once that you start doubting yourself. Not because you're incapable, but because you've been carrying too much for too long without a moment to breathe. And in that pressure, you begin to wonder if you're slipping, if you're losing your edge, if maybe you're not as strong as you thought. But here's the truth: your strength is still there. It didn't disappear. It's just buried under noise, stress, and expectations that were never meant to be carried all at once. Today, I want you to give yourself permission to pause, not because you're defeated, but because you're resetting. Today, I want to remind you that you are not weak. You're simply one deep breath away from stepping back into your power with even greater clarity and control. Let's talk about how you relax, refocus, and rise again. Strength isn't the absence of struggle, it's the decision to keep moving despite it. We often think strength means never feeling tired, never feeling confused, never doubting ourselves. But real strength is far more human than that. It's in the moments when you feel overwhelmed and still choose to take the next step. It's in the moments when life pushes you down and you decide that you're not staying there. Strength is built each time you rise after being knocked back. The struggle doesn't take away your strength, it reveals it. You are not weak for feeling exhausted. You are not weak for needing time to breathe. You are not weak for pausing to understand what's going on inside you. In fact, that pause is what separates people who burn out from people who break through. Every high-performing individual, whether in security, leadership, or daily life, knows the importance of regrouping. We don't admire people because they never struggled. We admire them because they refuse to let struggle define them. Relaxing does not make you less capable, it makes you more effective. When you relax, your mind unclenches. Your thoughts become sharper. Your judgment becomes clearer. You stop reacting and start responding. You give yourself the mental space to evaluate what's real, what's worth your energy, and what you need to let go of. Relaxation is not a luxury, it is part of discipline. If you want your mind to perform like a weapon, you must maintain it like one. Refocusing is the second step. After you relax, you redirect your energy back to your purpose. You stop wasting strength on things that drain you. You start investing it in what builds you. Sometimes life scatters your attention: stress, pressure, comparison, noise. But once you refocus, everything aligns again. You begin to see solutions instead of obstacles. You regain the power to choose your response instead of being controlled by the moment. You are not weak for needing to reset. Weakness is ignoring the tension building inside you until it breaks you. Strength is recognizing it early and doing what needs to be done, stopping, breathing, recalibrating. Strength is the ability to say, "I'm not quitting, I'm recharging so I can come back better." When you give yourself permission to pause, you reconnect with the part of you that is grounded, calm, and unshakable. You step back and see the bigger picture. You remember that every challenge you've ever survived required a moment of clarity just like this one. You remember that survival wasn't accidental. It was intentional. So don't mistake your exhaustion for weakness. Don't mistake your need for calm as a sign of failure. Every strong person you've ever admired has had moments of silence, stillness, and reflection. That's where strength is rebuilt. That's where resilience is sharpened. And that is exactly where you find the power to stand up again, stronger, clearer, and more focused than before. You're not overwhelmed because you're weak. You're overwhelmed because you've been strong for too long without a pause. People forget that strength has a weight. Carrying responsibilities, carrying expectations, carrying emotions, carrying other people's needs on top of your own, it all adds up. And sometimes you've been holding everything together for so long that you don't even notice how heavy it has become. You keep going because that's what you've always done. You push through because that's who you are. But even the strongest structure needs reinforcement. Even the sharpest mind needs rest. Your overwhelm is not a sign that you're failing. It's a signal that you've been operating at full power without giving yourself a moment to recover. We live in a world that glorifies constant hustle, constant movement, constant proving. So when you pause, you might feel guilty. You might feel like you're falling behind. You might think that if you stop, just for a moment, everything you built will collapse. But the truth is, the pause is what protects you from collapse. The pause is where you regain your clarity. It is where you recalibrate your direction and remind yourself what actually matters. Overwhelm is not a weakness, it's a message. It's your mind and body saying, let me reset so I can help you perform at your best again. Many people misunderstand strength. They think it means being unbreakable, unshakable, unaffected. But true strength isn't cold or emotionless. True strength is honest. It recognizes when you need a breath. It recognizes when the weight is becoming too much to carry alone. Strong people don't pretend they're indestructible. They manage themselves long before they reach the breaking point. And that ability to step back, to listen to yourself, is what separates disciplined strength from reckless endurance. You have been strong in ways you don't even give yourself credit for. You've endured situations you never asked for. You've carried emotional battles no one else sees. You've stayed committed when it would have been easier to walk away. You've shown up for people even while you were hurting. That is strength. But strength without rest becomes survival mode, and survival mode is not where you thrive. You deserve more than just surviving. You deserve to breathe, to reset, to function with clarity instead of chaos. So instead of judging yourself for feeling overwhelmed, honor it. It means you've been fighting hard. It means you've been giving your best. And now your mind is asking for a moment so it can continue to protect you, guide you, and keep you moving forward. Take that moment. Take that breath. Take that pause that you've earned 100 times over. Because when you allow yourself to reset, your strength returns in a way that's sharper, steadier, and more controlled. What once felt heavy becomes manageable again. What once felt confusing becomes clear. And what once felt like weakness reveals itself as the proof that you've been strong all along, just in need of a moment to breathe before rising again. Relaxation is not quitting, it's strategic recovery. Somewhere along the way, people began to confuse rest with weakness, as if stepping back means you lack the drive to keep going. But the truth is, the strongest people in the world, mentally, emotionally, professionally, know how to step away before they burn out. They understand that you can't run at full speed forever. You can't push relentlessly without consequences. Even the most elite individuals, the ones performing under extreme pressure, are trained to pause, reset, and conserve their energy so they can return sharper, faster, and stronger. That pause is not surrender. It is strategy. When you choose to relax, you're telling yourself, I'm preserving my strength for what truly matters. That's not giving up. That's wisdom. The people who fall apart aren't the ones who rested. They're the ones who never allowed themselves to. They ignored the signs, pushed themselves past their limits, and convinced themselves that exhaustion was the price of success. But exhaustion doesn't make you productive. Exhaustion doesn't make you effective. It only drains your clarity and dulls your decision-making. Relaxation restores the sharpness you lost while fighting through noise, stress, and pressure. You can't face life with a fatigued mind. You can't make good choices with a tense body. Your thoughts become scattered, your emotions react instead of respond, and suddenly everything feels heavier than it actually is. When you allow yourself to relax, it's like wiping fog off a mirror. You begin to see things as they truly are. Problems look smaller, solutions look clearer, and your confidence begins to rise again. You reclaim the calm you need to act with intention instead of impulse. That calm becomes your power. Strategic recovery is not about doing nothing. It's about doing the right thing for your mind and body at the right time. It's stepping away so you can come back with a fresh perspective. It's giving yourself the silence to hear your own thoughts again. It's allowing your emotions to settle so you can regain control. And the moment you regain control, you regain power. Because clarity is power. Composure is power. A steady mind can accomplish what a stressed mind never will. Think about a warrior sharpening a blade. They don't swing the sword endlessly without stopping. They pause, evaluate, sharpen, and then continue with precision. That's what relaxation does for you. It sharpens you. It gives you the ability to move forward with accuracy rather than chaos. It prevents you from wasting energy on the wrong things and directs it toward what actually matters. So don't let anyone convince you that resting is quitting. Don't let your own inner critic shame you for needing a moment of stillness. You are not slowing down. You are preparing. You are gathering your strength, rebuilding your mental armor, and stepping back into your life with intention instead of exhaustion. This is not surrender. This is strategy. And the strength that returns after strategic recovery is the kind of strength that lasts, grows, and carries you through anything that comes next. Refocusing is the moment your mind realigns with your purpose. It's the point where you stop scattering your energy in every direction and bring it back to what truly matters. Life has a way of pulling you into noise. Distractions, pressure, expectations, opinions, responsibilities. All of these things stretch your attention thin until you forget what you were aiming for in the first place. But when you refocus, you pull your power back. You reclaim the energy you've been wasting on things that don't serve you. You return to the path you were always meant to walk. There comes a moment where you realize that not everything deserves your reaction. Not everything deserves your time. Not everything deserves space in your mind. When you refocus, you become aware of what drains you and what fuels you. You stop giving strength to things that weaken you. You stop letting every small distraction dictate your direction. You begin to filter your world with intention. This matters, this doesn't. This deserves my attention, this does not. That kind of mental clarity is what allows you to move through your life with precision instead of confusion. Refocusing doesn't mean your problems disappear. It means you stop letting them clutter your vision. You start seeing them for what they actually are: temporary, solvable, manageable. You stop exaggerating their size and start evaluating their reality. Most stress is not about the situation itself. It's about your scattered attention magnifying everything. Once you bring your focus back to your core, challenges shrink. You see solutions instead of obstacles. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding intelligently. When your mind realigns with your purpose, you remember why you began. You reconnect with the version of yourself that had clarity, courage, and conviction. You remember your goals, your discipline, your capability. You remember the strength you've built over years, not moments. And suddenly, the noise around you loses its hold. You start moving with direction instead of drifting. You start acting with purpose instead of pressure. You start choosing instead of being pulled. Refocusing is a form of power because it returns control back to you. And control is something you often forget you have when you're overwhelmed. But the moment you take a breath, silence the chaos, and decide where your energy goes, that's the moment you take your power back. You stop being led by circumstance and start being guided by purpose. You stop letting life react for you and start deciding your next step with intention. Your mind is strongest when it is centered. Your purpose is strongest when it is remembered. And you are strongest when you choose to align the two. So take that moment. Refocus. Pull your attention out of the noise and place it back onto your mission. Because when your mind is locked onto your purpose, distractions lose their power, stress loses its grip, and suddenly you move through life with the steady, quiet force of someone who knows exactly where they're going and refuses to be pulled off course. Every strong person knows when to stop, breathe, and reset. Strength isn't just about pushing forward. It's about knowing when to pause so you can push forward better. People often confuse nonstop effort with discipline, but discipline is actually the ability to manage yourself wisely. It's knowing when your mind is getting cluttered, when your emotions are getting heavy, and when your body is signaling that it's time to slow down. A strong person doesn't ignore those signs. They pay attention. They don't see pausing as losing momentum. They see it as maintaining control. Because if you don't control your internal world, the world around you will control you. Stopping is not giving up. Stopping is the act of pulling yourself out of autopilot and back into awareness. It's that moment when you step out of the chaos and say, "Hold on, let me understand what's happening here." That single moment of stopping can prevent hours, days, or even months of moving in the wrong direction. It gives you a chance to check in with yourself. Are you still aligned with your purpose, or have you been pulled into distractions? Are you acting intentionally, or are you just reacting? Stopping allows you to answer those questions honestly, without pressure, without panic. Breathing is more powerful than people realize. Deep, intentional breathing pulls you out of stress mode and back into presence. It interrupts the cycle of overthinking that drains your energy. When you breathe consciously, you slow down your heart rate, calm your nerves, and reset your emotional state. In that calmness, your judgment becomes clearer. You start to see what you were too overwhelmed to notice before. You begin to recognize solutions that were hidden behind your hectic thoughts. Breathing is your mind's way of grounding itself, reminding you that you are here, you are capable, and you are still in charge. Resetting is where transformation happens. Resetting is not about erasing everything and starting over. It's about fine-tuning. It's adjusting your mindset, shifting your priorities, and releasing what no longer serves you. Resetting allows you to collect the strength you've scattered across stress, fear, and uncertainty and bring it back to yourself. It's the mental equivalent of wiping the smudges off a lens so you can see clearly again. And when you see clearly, you act better. You decide better, you respond better. Resetting gives you the clarity you need to proceed with purpose instead of pressure. Strong people don't avoid these steps, they embrace them. They know that pushing nonstop leads to burnout, mistakes, impulsive decisions, and emotional exhaustion. They know that without stopping, breathing, and resetting, even the strongest mind becomes clouded and unfocused. So they choose balance. They choose strategy. They choose control over chaos. You are strong enough to do the same. You are strong enough to pause without guilt, breathe without rushing, and reset without fear. Strength is not the absence of struggle. It's the ability to navigate struggle with clarity and composure. And when you master the art of stopping, breathing, and resetting, you don't just survive challenges. You rise above them with a power that feels steady, grounded, and completely unshakable. Your mind becomes your greatest weapon only when you give it room to recharge. You can have all the potential, discipline, and ambition in the world, but if your mind is exhausted, it cannot perform the way you expect it to. An overworked mind becomes scattered. It reacts instead of responds. It magnifies small problems into overwhelming ones and turns simple decisions into complicated battles. When you push yourself nonstop, your mind enters survival mode, and in survival mode, you don't think clearly. You just try to get through the moment. But you're not meant to live just getting through moments. You're meant to think, to plan, to create, to choose with intention. And none of that happens when your mind is running on empty. Giving your mind room to recharge isn't a luxury. It's a power move. It's the act of pulling your thoughts away from chaos so they can reorganize themselves. It's the decision to let your inner world reset so you can regain control over your outer world. When you step back for a moment, when you allow your mind silence, stillness, or even a brief escape, it begins to repair itself. Your thoughts align. Your emotions settle. Your focus sharpens. You begin to see things that exhaustion made impossible to notice. Suddenly, what felt overwhelming feels manageable. What felt confusing becomes clear. Your mind starts working with you, not against you. People underestimate how powerful a recharged mind truly is. A rested mind solves problems faster. It recognizes opportunities quicker. It makes wiser decisions. It handles pressure with more grace. It sees patterns, understands people, and interprets situations with a level of clarity you simply cannot access when you're mentally drained. This is why the strongest individuals, leaders, protectors, performers, protect their mental energy the same way they protect their time. They know their mind is their first line of defense and their greatest source of strategy. They know that when their mind is sharp, everything else falls into place. Recharging doesn't always mean taking a long break. Sometimes it's a few minutes of silence. Sometimes it's stepping outside to breathe. Sometimes it's putting your phone away, closing your eyes, or letting yourself laugh. Sometimes it's allowing yourself to think about nothing at all. The method isn't what matters, the space is. And once you create that space, your mind responds with clarity. It's almost like a reset button you didn't realize you needed. You begin to feel grounded again, and that grounded feeling becomes the foundation of your strength. When your mind is recharged, you face life differently. You stop being pulled by stress and start guiding yourself with intention. You stop reacting emotionally and start choosing with intelligence. You stop feeling out of control and start feeling capable again. That shift is powerful because it's internal. No one can take it from you. A calm, recharged mind is unshakable. It sees through noise. It separates truth from distraction. It protects you from making decisions you'll regret. It elevates you above the chaos. So when you feel overwhelmed, don't label yourself as weak. Recognize that your mind is asking for space. Give it that space. Let it breathe. Let it recover. Because once your mind recharges, it becomes your greatest weapon, sharp, steady, and ready for anything you need to face next. Stepping back is not stepping down. It's stepping into clarity. There's this idea that if you're not constantly moving forward, you're losing progress. But movement without direction isn't progress at all. Sometimes you're running so fast that you don't even realize you're running in circles. Sometimes you're pushing so hard that you don't notice you're pushing in the wrong direction. Stepping back gives you the distance you need to see the bigger picture. It allows you to understand not just what you're doing, but why you're doing it. Without that clarity, your actions become noise. With it, they become purpose. When you step back, you give yourself permission to evaluate everything honestly. You start seeing what aligns with your goals and what's been distracting you. You start recognizing the habits that drain your energy and the ones that fuel it. You begin to identify the commitments you made out of pressure and the ones that came from genuine intention. This awareness doesn't come when you're deep inside the chaos. It comes when you rise above it. Stepping back lifts you out of the emotional fog and allows you to see your life with a level of objectivity that's impossible when you're overwhelmed. People often fear stepping back because they think it will make them appear less dedicated, less driven, or less capable. But the truth is, stepping back requires more courage than pushing blindly. It takes strength to admit that you need a moment to think. It takes wisdom to recognize that clarity is more powerful than speed. Anyone can rush. Anyone can force themselves forward. But not everyone has the self-control to pause, reassess, and redirect with intention. That's not weakness. It's leadership. It's maturity. It's emotional intelligence. Once you give yourself that space, something shifts inside you. The pressure you've been holding on to loosens. The expectations that felt suffocating become manageable. You begin to notice things you missed before: opportunities, risks, patterns, signs. You start understanding what actually deserves your energy instead of spreading yourself too thin. Clarity reveals the unnecessary weight you've been carrying and frees you to move with precision instead of confusion. With clarity, your next steps become sharper. You stop reacting to everything around you and start choosing deliberately. You stop letting stress dictate your actions and start guiding your life with intention. Stepping back gives you the mental and emotional room to reconnect with your purpose, your real purpose, not the one shaped by pressure or comparison. And once you reconnect with that purpose, your actions gain power, your presence gains strength, your decisions gain direction. Stepping back is not about losing momentum, it's about regaining control. It's about making sure the path you're walking is the right one. It's about ensuring that every step you take is meaningful, not just movement for the sake of movement. Because when you step back and gain clarity, you don't just continue. You continue smarter, stronger, and with a deeper understanding of where you're headed. And that clarity becomes your advantage. It becomes the difference between wandering and progressing, between reacting and leading, between feeling lost and moving with unshakable confidence. You don't lose strength by resting, you multiply it. We grow up hearing that strength comes from grinding, hustling, pushing nonstop. And yes, there is power in discipline, there is power in effort, but there is also power in knowing when to stop and let your strength rebuild. Rest doesn't reduce your capability, it enhances it. When you give yourself time to breathe, your mind clears, your body resets, and your emotional balance returns. That recharge doesn't make you weaker. It makes you more effective when you rise again. You don't lose anything by resting. You actually gain back everything exhaustion tried to take from you. The truth is, no one can operate at full power forever. Even machines need to shut down so they don't break. Even the strongest structures need maintenance to stay standing. You are no different. When you rest, you're not abandoning your goals. You're preparing yourself to approach them with more clarity and more energy. It's like lifting weights. The muscle doesn't grow during the strain, it grows during the recovery. Your mind is the same, your spirit is the same. The moment you allow yourself to rest, you're allowing yourself to grow stronger in ways constant effort could never give you. People sometimes misunderstand rest because they connect it with laziness. But laziness is avoiding effort. Rest is honoring effort. Rest is acknowledging the work you've done and giving yourself the space to rebuild. You can rest without losing your drive. You can rest without losing your ambition. You can rest and still be the strongest version of yourself. In fact, resting is what keeps that version alive. It maintains your sharpness, it protects your mental resilience, it prevents burnout, which is what actually steals your strength, your motivation, your clarity, and your confidence. When you rest with intention, you start to notice something powerful. Your thoughts organize themselves, your priorities become clearer, your stress levels drop. The problems that felt overwhelming suddenly shrink into something manageable. You rediscover parts of yourself that get buried under pressure. You reconnect with your focus. And in that reconnection, you regain the kind of internal strength that stress tries to cloud. That's the strength you carry into your next challenge. That's the strength that multiplies. Rest isn't a retreat. It's an investment. It's the moment you sharpen your mind before the next move. It's the breath before the breakthrough. It's the silence where your inner voice grows louder and steadier. When you rest, you're building the foundation for your next level of success. You're creating the mental and emotional space you need to handle what comes next with courage instead of exhaustion, with clarity instead of confusion. So don't ever confuse taking a moment for losing momentum. Don't ever mistake stillness for weakness. Stillness is where your power grows. Rest is where your strength expands. When you choose to rest, you're choosing to come back stronger, calmer, more focused, and more unshakable than before. That is not losing strength. That is multiplying it. Control isn't about forcing everything. It's about directing your energy where it actually matters. So often, people think control means micromanaging every situation, every outcome, every interaction. They believe that if they just push hard enough, plan enough, or obsess over the details, they can make life bend to their will. But the truth is, control doesn't work that way. Life is unpredictable, chaotic, and often unfair. Trying to force it only burns your energy and clouds your judgment. Real control comes from knowing where to invest your time, your effort, and your focus. It's about choosing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Directing your energy requires awareness. You have to see clearly where your attention is going and ask yourself, is this helping me move forward or is it draining me? Energy is a limited resource. When you waste it on things that don't matter, you're not demonstrating strength, you're surrendering it. Every hour you spend worrying about things beyond your control is an hour you could spend sharpening your mind, strengthening your relationships, or pursuing your goals. The ability to conserve your energy for what truly matters is what separates people who achieve from people who struggle to stay afloat. Control also requires boundaries. You can't be everything to everyone, nor should you try. You can't force others to act differently, feel differently, or respond to you the way you expect. You can, however, control how you respond. You can decide how much time, attention, and emotion you give to any person, situation, or problem. That is where true power lies, not in controlling others, but in controlling yourself and your responses. When you master that, chaos no longer intimidates you. It challenges you to act intentionally rather than react impulsively. When you focus on directing your energy instead of forcing outcomes, you become calmer, sharper, and more effective. You notice patterns that were invisible when you were trying to micromanage everything. You see opportunities that were previously buried under frustration and stress. You become strategic in your decisions instead of being swept along by emotion or circumstance. The clarity that comes from directing your energy gives you leverage in every area of life: personal, professional, and emotional. You're no longer reacting, you're navigating with intention. This approach doesn't mean you stop caring or stop acting. It means you act with precision. You focus your energy where it counts, not where it's wasted. You respond instead of reacting. You invest instead of dissipating. Every choice you make becomes more powerful because it comes from a place of awareness and purpose. You learn that control is less about domination and more about discipline, less about force and more about focus. When you apply this principle consistently, you feel lighter and stronger at the same time. You stop exhausting yourself on things that have no return and start building momentum on the things that do. You realize that control isn't a burden, it's a tool, and the most effective use of that tool is in directing your energy toward what truly matters, letting go of the rest, and trusting yourself to handle what comes next. That is how you reclaim your power, maintain your focus, and operate at your highest potential. When you relax, you reconnect with the part of yourself that is unshakable. In the chaos of daily life, it's easy to lose touch with that inner core, the part of you that doesn't panic under pressure, that doesn't crumble under criticism, that doesn't get swept away by stress. When you are constantly moving, constantly reacting, constantly trying to keep up, that unshakable part of yourself becomes buried beneath noise, emotion, and distraction. Relaxation is the act of peeling back those layers, of creating space to reconnect with your own stability. It reminds you that no matter how intense life feels, there is a center within you that remains calm, grounded, and steady. This unshakable part of yourself is not born from luck or circumstance. It is built over time through experience, resilience, and self-awareness. Every challenge you've faced, every hardship you've endured, and every time you've stood back up has contributed to it. But when you never pause, you forget it exists. You forget that you have already survived moments that felt impossible. You forget that you have already demonstrated courage and clarity in the past. Relaxation brings that memory and that power to the forefront. It allows you to remember that you are capable of handling more than you think, and that your inner strength is always present, waiting for you to tap into it. Reconnecting with your unshakable core also restores perspective. Stress often magnifies problems, making them seem insurmountable. Fear clouds judgment, and anxiety distorts reality. When you relax, however, your mind stops spiraling. The tension in your body eases and your emotions settle. In that state, you begin to see your challenges as they truly are, not as exaggerated monsters in your imagination. Your inner calm becomes a lens through which you can evaluate situations with clarity, make better decisions, and act from a place of confidence rather than panic. That is the power of reconnecting with your unshakable self. It restores not just peace, but perspective. Relaxation also reconnects you with your purpose. When you are constantly overwhelmed, it's easy to forget why you started, what you're striving for, and what truly matters. The unshakable part of yourself remembers. It aligns you with your values, your goals, and your priorities. It reminds you that the noise around you is temporary, but your mission is enduring. When you reconnect with it, you move forward with a sense of direction and certainty that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks or distractions. You act with intention because you are rooted in something bigger than the immediate chaos. Finally, reconnecting with your unshakable self strengthens resilience. Life will continue to challenge you. Stress, disappointment, and setbacks are inevitable. But when you know that there is a calm, steady, and unwavering part of you that you can access at any time, nothing can truly overwhelm you. You face difficulties not as a frantic reaction, but as a composed response. You carry forward with confidence, clarity, and courage. Relaxing is not surrender. It is an act of self-reclamation. It brings you back to the part of yourself that can withstand anything, rise after every fall, and continue moving forward with unshakable strength.